finish for me. But I'm grateful that such space is provided because the original space was really tight and he had people all over the building because they couldn't be in one space. So I'm grateful that we have this one space. The building goes from where my office is all the way almost to where the Senate planner is on the same floor. So I just want to be grateful first to God for such a unique opportunity. And then to the Chinese government for doing this for Liberia. And then to the Liberian government for making an environment possible that such collaboration between Liberia and the People's Republic of China can continue. I just want to be grateful to the Spoon TV network and all of you who come all the way to the US and visit with us over the next few weeks. We hope you will have an exciting and eye-opening trip that sometimes sitting in the States and talking about issues is not the same thing as coming and being on the ground and seeing actually what's going on. We are a nation in transition. There's a lot happening on a positive level in many small areas. We somehow capitalize on the negatives. But I always say this is a beautiful country with beautiful opportunities, unlimited opportunities for growth and development, especially as it relates to our young people. But again, there's work in progress. So let me say, welcome to my office. I am truly honored for this visit.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. We are so honored and humbled to be here at your office. I don't know, I should say it's my first time, and Dr. Richardson, Mr. Richardson, Kevin Hassan, the rest of the team, though we are missing some of our folks, Benjamin Selby and Mr. Bill Yatamba. But we are here. We are here to pay our respect to you and all the members of the Senate, and we hope that we can have a fruitful discussion and listen to you. We are you on the show before we ask questions, so it won't be our usual sport talk. We'll just be quiet and listen.
Well, let me introduce you to my Chief of Staff, George Linden. Long-time public servant. He worked with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for many, many, many years. His last assignment was in Accra. And so we had worked together when I was a senator, and I just knew his coming on board would bring a different level to the work that I would be doing here. So I'm grateful to have him and quite a few others who joined us. At the back of you is Richmond Newville. He's our press secretary here. Of course, I have a lot of young people around me. I believe that the future is the young people around the country. They come with new ideas and new ways of doing things. The work I do is a beneficiary of what they have dreamed. I'm just the arrowhead, but again, a lot of people come together to do what we do here. So everyone isn't here, but at least for the two at this level, it's good to get to meet some of the people behind the scenes.
Thank you very much. And we are here. We visited your foundation. We went to see the great work you're doing at the YWCA. We should applaud you. The team, we just can't stop talking about that. It's amazing. We have not seen such a building here in Liberia before, so moreover, it is creative. So we want to say thank you, but the question remains, how do you connect the dots? As a vice president, your foundation and the YWCA project you are undertaking, and every other things you are doing for Liberia.
Well, let me say thank you to Spoon TV and yourself, Stanton, for believing. When I reached out to you, it was just a dream on paper. I had no idea where we would have started from or what we would have done. And without any hesitation, you said, okay, we're going to support it, which you did. And it jump-started the process. We also got some help from Cimenco. They brought us cement and sand. And my office has also been involved in helping to make this a reality. I think we're about 80%. We're hoping that the building will be finished soon, and then we can furnish it and begin to start the work. So let me say thank you to you for believing, because sometimes people hear stories and they don't believe. It's easy to look at some of the things that have happened to individuals or organizations and say, why should I support this? But I was really, really, really pleased at one call, he said, okay, we're gonna do this, so I'm happy that you're here to see, what your money and the other funds we've gotten from Sineco and the Office of the Vice President has done. Connecting the dots. There's a lot to be done here, and I think public-private partnership will help Liberia more than maybe what government can do, because government is not in the place to fix everything. It's supposed to provide an enabling environment and incentives to allow businesses to come. And so I hope you'll use your platform to encourage people to come to Liberia. We have to change the narrative, because if you go on the net and you just type Liberia, all you will hear about or all you will read about the war years. We've transitioned more than 15, 16 years since 2006 when Madam Salih began a process of putting our country back on its feet. This work continues. There's work to do with young people. Some of them are on drugs. A good portion of them are on drugs. Remember, these are war babies. Those were born within the last 40 years. Unlike us, that got a chance to go to school and live in homes where our parents actually provided lessons for integrity and character and commitment and hard work. All they saw was war, running from displaced camp to displaced camp. Those young people are now heads of households, they have their own children, but they have not been processed. And if you were to ask me what is the most important thing all of us could do, we don't have a rehab center here that will actually be a hospital where we can process these young people. When you're on drugs, it's not praying, and I think Reverend Peabody would agree with me. The praying is an additional aspect of it. The fact is they're on a chemical that changes the whole way they think. They have to be detoxed. And so if someone were to ask you what is the most important project that you see, is building a rehab hospital that would detox the young people. There are some of them on drugs. There's some of them that happen to be where they are because they finished school, they can't find jobs, and they just find themselves in the ghettos. There are some of them that are very smart. I had a meeting with some of them about 2 years ago, and the truth was, the guy who spoke to me, I was so impressed by what he said. I said, what are you doing here? He says, Madam Vice President, I have a degree in mathematics. I almost fainted. I said, so why are you in the ghetto? He says, I came from school and I couldn't find a job. So nothing to do. I just started hanging out with my friends in the ghettos, and that's how I started getting, doing drugs. Handsome, radiant, intelligent. So all of them, we call them Zogos, but they are our children. And you'll be surprised at the names. Funny thing, those who are underprivileged, their kids can't afford to do drugs. So it is the families that we come from that have little money to give our children that are really the ones that are being destroyed. And the devil does something, or he's doing something serious, the next generation is targeted. We're already off the books. He's now targeting the next generation. And so I believe that something has to be done to rehabilitate these young people and to provide centers of training and education. And I'm not talking about accounting and mathematics. How was America built? By middle-class technicians, those who work with their hands. Our whole country is green. We are part of the green revolution. We need to get into agriculture. You can get land anywhere and do anything. We're buying pepper from Guinea. So if we could get land for these young people, even those who are strong enough to begin, they want to see that there is an end result. And if they're able to get their products and we can process it, because agriculture has an entire circle from the planter to the supermarket. But we're growing crops, sending it to the different markets. In 3 or 4 days, they're rotting. So they'll tell you, why should I plant more than what I'm able to eat? What happens to it? If you visit the market, all of the food is being wasted. We have nothing for processing. Processing cassava flour, processing pepper. You know how in America, everybody wanna see like green pepper. We could do dried pepper, we could do pepper sauce, we could do so many things with our hands. I remember growing up and there were women who came from Arlington and other places that did jam. There was pineapple jam, there was mango jam, there was all kinds of jams that the people, because nobody was coming to Monrovia. So we're able to produce what we needed. We need to also look at cultivation of rice. There are a couple of people here doing real good work, but they need to be given some incentive because the Liberian rice is, I think, $18, whereas the imported rice is $13.50. And I went to visit one of those farms right behind Depot Road, and I said to the people, we have to look at what we can do to provide incentives to our farmers so they will grow more, so the price can come down, and so the tariffs can be on the imported food. But I was looking for rice to send during the COVID for the girls I have across the country, and it was $18. I had to go back and buy the rice for $13 because it didn't make sense economically. How do we encourage our farmers to continue to grow? We have the AGOA program that the U.S. has agreed. We're not even utilizing that because we're not producing at the end result for export. So there are so many opportunities. And I think that will be the solution to our problems. When young people can work and produce and take care of their families, the country will grow. It is private sector that grows countries and develops countries, not government. So people keep saying government. We now have gone from, I think, 75,000 during the Ellen Sirleaf regime to almost 100,000 civil service. But government is not supposed to absorb all of the young people. So those who are coming from the universities have no space. So what do? I mean, it's a conversation that all of us must keep, and everyone has to get involved. But Stanton, what I do is, if I look at the whole spectrum of what must be done, it's easy to just say, hey, this is too much. So I pick a little piece of it, and I work with it. What I'm working with is girls across the country, because I always say women are the heartbeat of everything. And the truth is, God stopped the whole creation to make woman. Why? Everything was made. Man, animals, trees. Stanton, am I lying? I mean, Dr. Peabody, am I lying? He made everything and he said it is good. And he rested. But then he looked around and he said, no, there's something missing here.
Say what's it really?
So he saw a gap and he wanted to fill it.
Keep going.
So he made that gap the gap for the woman. What is our role? We are helpmates to ensure that the men, and I'm a female activist, but I know that there is a place for the woman. We were created to help the man achieve the dreams that God put on earth. Right. He has the mandate, but we have to help them. Without the woman, there's nothing happening. Yeah. And what we need to look at is, what can we do for women? If women are empowered, all of the SDGs are solved. One woman educated provides education, provides safe water, provides better environment, and the list goes on. So each woman that's empowered helps the next generation fulfill all of those things. So God didn't make a mistake. So for me, when I see how difficult it is for young girls, I was just fortunate to grow up here. My parents were not rich. I always say I grew up in a zinc house until I graduated from the university. My father couldn't afford to build a cement house because he had to send us to school. He had 7 girls and 1 son. So he said, all of you guys are equal. I don't have anything to give you, but I'll give you the best education that you can get. Get into school, and the more you do better, the more I'll support you. So the woman is still critical in the development of everything we see, and they are the ones that are really damaged. There's a lot of sexual and gender-based violence in our country. People are raping 2-year-old babies. So there's a lot happening to the woman. And so when the boys say, oh, you left us behind, I say, well, boys always get it better. And that's the truth, because families coalesce around the male child because you are the heir. You carry that name. You carry the flavor of the family. But the girls are left behind. If you go to any indigenous family who has girls and boys, they will say, let's send the boys to school. The girls will get married, their husband will take care of them. So that's why I stick with girls' education, because I know they must be capacitated to be able to fulfill that mandate that God has given us, to be helpmates, to fulfill God's agenda on this earth. So I do girls' education. I mean, I try to do a little bit here and there when I see young boys who are actually brilliant, but my focus is helping the girl child assume that position that God has given. And so I can't do all, I do the little bit I can. I mean, with my own resources and a few friends that I have, I've done this for 21 years, practically alone. And it becomes more difficult every year, because everywhere you go, some mother will say that the only child I have, please try and help. So if the numbers get more and more and more, you get to the point where you now get overwhelmed and the system keeps shifting in a way. COVID hasn't helped, but I'm committed, for as long as I live by the grace of God, to continue to mentor, provide leadership, and to provide opportunity for girls across Liberia. I pray one day my program will have 20,000 girls, because 2005 compared to 5 million, it's just a drop in the bucket. Yeah. But everyone should do something. And so even as I know there's a lot that Spoon Foundation does across the nation, and I know there are many projects you're undertaking, trying to help here and there, but you guys have to find a way and find some farmland and do agriculture, because you have to have sustainable ways of dealing with the problems.
Right.
Because it can get overwhelming, I can tell you
Right.
the truth. So I have now bought some land, I'm trying to start my farming, I would encourage you to do such, because if you plant rubber or coffee or cocoa, it's a 50-year circle of support
Yes.
long after you are gone.
Yes.
And if the industries and the systems and the programs and the foundations that we are building today must survive, then we must look into the long-term benefits of
That's right.
what we can do, so that when you are gone, your sons will take the place, but there will be funding.
Sure.
And you know what drew my attention? The Starfish Foundation is named after my granddaughter, even though it's my name, but she's named after me. And so when I began talking to her about legacies, and she said, "Mommy, don't do that to me." I said, "Why?" She said, "I see the struggle you go through every day." She said, "You're not leaving me with that problem because I have my own dreams."
Yeah.
And I hope that it will be independent enough so that whatever happens, I will do what I can, but I won't be overwhelmed by it. Because I have my own dreams, and I was like, oh wow. So then I decided, let's get into farming. That is the longest term investment, and it will provide job opportunities, and you can do so much if you have that kind of a system backing the foundation. And so, I mean, that's just my little advice as we continue to grow. Why things die is the fact that there is nothing sustainable at the long end to make sure that funding continues to come in. So, I mean, there's a lot to do. There are Liberians across the diaspora. If every Liberian, and I believe we have more than maybe 300,000 Liberians in America, I mean, my figures might be a little off, but even if we were 200,000 Liberians, if everyone were to pay $1 a month, you will have $200,000 every month to do significant things. And I think this is where everyone listens to Spoon TV across the nations of the world. So something has to be done to enable you to do some of what you dream of, and to be able to help our nation. We actually do need help, because government does not have the capacity to do everything. And I think in a nutshell, that's,
Thank you very much, Madam VP. Just one last thing, when you spoke about zones, you are the president of the Senate. Is there anything in the making, any plans, and then programs you guys are coming up with to fight this Zobo situation in the country?
thankfully, there's a project that's supposed to be undertaken by the Ministry of Youth and Sports. It's a $15 million project. President William Robert Tolbert built a youth center in Benton, and that center has already been renovated. It should be a center for training of young people, but because we have such large numbers of young people on drugs, I think they were considering, transforming that into a training and rehabilitation center. But there is no clinic there, and I think the clinic aspect is important, because if you take someone who's on drugs to that program, you're wasting time, you're wasting energy, you're wasting money. So some of them who may come to that program that need that kind of a help, they should be able to access it. So this is something maybe Liberians in the diaspora can look at, building a fully functioning detox center at a place like that, because I don't think that is a part of the plan. But the plan is to provide training, housing for them to stay for long periods of time. There's additional land there. They will be doing some farming also to be able to feed themselves. But the issue of the detoxification is something I don't think is in the plan. So I think if we all can look at how that can be established, it will really add a foothold to what they're doing.
Dave, Mr. 77, you should be on the Office of the Vice President. Also, that is Catherine Mills Rehabilitation Center. This has two institutions on the office.
Well, the Catherine Mills Center was destroyed in the war,
Yeah.
so they have land. I think the buildings are practically destroyed. You might just find foundations there, but this is something that we can look at building. It's not yet a part of our plans, and I think it should be, because beyond drugs, there's a lot of social, cultural issues across our country, and the young children are going through a lot of trauma. People need a place to go and just, be able to talk about what's happening to them. So I think it's an important part of our development. Hopefully, sooner than later, something like that can be created. What the alternative is a place on Dupont Road called the Greg Hospital. It's a regular hospital for, but they do a little bit of psychiatric work there. And sometimes those who can afford it put their sons or daughters through that job program. It's a very small program as opposed to what the Catherine Mills Center should have been. The Group of 77 is one of many organizations that deals with people living with disabilities. And my office has oversight over some of them that are registered leaders. Again, we decentralize across the country, so there are now a group of 77 units in about 11 of the counties. We hope this year we'll expand to the other 4. We're working to provide training opportunities for them, because being disabled doesn't mean you are unable. So we're trying to get that message to them that they can now begin to take their own lives into their own hands by training opportunities. We have a piece of land that was about 175 acres given to the Toba regime in Greville that has been encroached upon. So we're trying to get the land authority to go and do a resurvey, whatever is left, because I mean there are massive houses there. You know, I don't know how, but people sold it. There may be maybe 10 acres left.
Wow.
Yes, what we want to do is to just secure the 10 acres and build a training center, place for housing also, so they can live and get some training to put their lives back on track. So this is where we are with the group of 77. There are, however, other groups that have sprung up over the period in the budget for this year. Under the National Union of Disabled Persons, I think there's $500,000 that has been approved in the budget for that group to be able to assist other disabled groups. So hopefully some of what we're talking about in terms of training and capacity will be given to them at that level also.
Okay. And your time of taking office, if there was a 10 overload, is anything there for Zobo?
No, and this name sprung up a couple of years ago, and it's a very negative connotation. You know, I like to call them disadvantaged youths.
Yes.
But over the years, the truth of the matter is that when Madam Salik took over first, the UN got involved in demobilization of soldiers. So they gave everybody money, nobody did any kind of psycho social analysis, nobody provided training. They said, bring your guns, we'll give you $500. And you imagine these are young people who had actually fought at different levels in the war. Imagine their mindset. Because they had come from the war, they've just been left alone. No one has done before and even now any serious program to address their needs of housing, needs of their children, needs of their families. Nothing has been done. So this is the group that has now just come into all of this and gotten on drugs as a way of being frustrated. The numbers were lower then than it is now. But you know, every year, you know, and people come to Monrovia thinking this is the capital city and they can find gold on the streets here. So many more young people have come from the counties because most counties have no economic activity. You have some in Sino, you have some in Grand Cru because of the palm being planted. You have some in Cape Mount. There's palm in Cape Mount, and the B Mountain is industrial gold mining. You have a little bit of gold mining in Cocoyam, some part of Bon County. But apart from those 5 or 6 counties and Nimba, some counties really have no activities. So the young people won't just sit in Vonjema, for example. What are you doing there? So there are many more young people ending up in the city now. So these numbers are growing. But you come here, you have nowhere to stay, you have no support, you have no opportunities. So the numbers keep growing. We don't yet know
So there was
what the exact
nothing you met on the table when you took office?
Nothing.
No
All we've
plan
been
from the
doing,
past.
no plan. All they have been doing was providing food, which is not the solution.
No.
So there's money in the budget for feeding, and because we have a decentralized program, we are providing food at the different county levels. But that's it. What I have done now is first, decentralize and expand the program. Second, provide some training. Third, insist that we begin to do some agriculture. So they have some land in Todi, we've done onions and some small products. We now need to move to tree crops because like I said, if you plant palm, 50 years. So I'm encouraging them to use the land we have now to plant long-term tree crops. So, but they're just a small number under the group of 77 that we've managed to help because I can't even go beyond that. My budget is limited. I think this year we have about $200,000 for the group of 77 and we have $500,000 on the other side. So I'm saying I hope someone wise enough can begin to say, how do we find a way to sustain the young people that we have? What kind of programs can we do? So this is where we are. There really hasn't been any serious projects for it. I think it's under my tenure that we're talking about training and agriculture and identification of what.
That's why I wanna go on until everything begins.
Yes, except for the feeding, which is
Except for
something
the
that
feeding.
we've done.
So everything we're saying now is only you,
Yes,
it's
sir.
brand new.
Yes, sir.
We drove, and I know Director Richardson will come in. We drove our first night. We went down Broad Street, going towards the coast. So between Finance Ministry and Bill Harris, a lot of, like I think it was almost 1 a.m. A lot of the disadvantaged people, they just gathered, smoking, talking, drinking. I probably saw maybe 2 to 3 groups of them. In total darkness. I'm not a vice president. Someone said it's a national security issue. Imagine Central Monrovia, one of the busiest streets of the country, only finance ministry. You get almost 200 disadvantaged youths gathering, 1, 2 a.m. People that trust that. Can we do something? You know, when we travel, other folks come into our culture, and those guys just there doing what they want to do, no security, no police, nothing.
And it's a national emergency, and that's the truth. More beyond the security threat that it poses, because they could do anything in their frustration. I see it as a cry for help. Something must be done. And I'm just happy that finally we have, I think, $10.5 billion to begin to address this. I hope it will be done urgently. I don't know if it's enough, because in every major city across Liberia, they have that same problem. Everyone isn't in Monrovia. There are people in Tacoma, people in Banga, people in Kanta. So it has to be, handled. This facility at the center in Bensonville or Bentall is just a tip of the iceberg. And some of these young people just want opportunities. How can we begin to reframe their minds so that they can begin to do something? All they want is an opportunity to be a part of the Liberian story. So it's a security threat. It's beyond that, the responsibility of government to ensure that our people have the opportunities that they need to be what they want to be. So I think all of us just need to continue to talk about it. We need to highlight it because it's a very serious thing. I mean, people go out in the evening, and in addition to that, there are little girls on every corner selling themselves for, I went to do something one evening, I was a little late coming back, and I stopped, when I was a senator, and I asked a group of 10 at some corner, so I stopped and said, what are you guys doing? Oma, we're looking for it. I said, looking for what? 12 and 13-year-old little girls. I said, but what do we do? We are now heads of households in our families. How do we survive? I said, somebody can pay us. I said, so now we can make $200. I was broken. This is like 7 or 8 years ago. So they are real, and that's the problems of the young people, sexual and gender-based violence, and like you said, disadvantaged young people looking for a way to be a part of this Liberian dream that we all keep hoping will come to pass. Something has to be done. It takes the collective effort of all of us. Yes, sir.
One, in the immediate term, what are some of the things you need to help jumpstart, or not jumpstart, but you can open that you have, for example, equipment, or tool that you need to actually start the program. The second thing is, besides your office, is there any person in the government that sees the urgency of getting our youth off the streets? Because I think I've been in the security sector for almost 20 years. If we cannot ensure that the population is informed, it creates a major security situation in the country. And we were at a program yesterday, right? And within a matter of an hour, things started to get rowdy because of the youth. They have a need, a major need And I think it should be addressed as urgently as possible in order to keep the calm in our society. It is a major security issue. So besides your office, is there any other, like the Senate or members of the government that sees the urgency in that trying to help address it?
And I think there are many NGOs struggling with this issue. There's an NGO run by the Providence Baptist Church that feeds them once a week. That too is enough. They're feeding them, they're providing some training. Some of them have gone through a one-year program. They're now working at Baptist churches as security guards. So they're trying in every way. Jetty, the former Indian ambassador, feeds them every day. He provides about 2,000 meals every day. So he goes to all of the different places and feeds them. Also the Office of the First Lady is doing some work. The president also is concerned about this group really. He's spoken about it more than once. Hopefully, like I said, this funding that's coming into the sports will jumpstart this process, but it takes more than that. It takes much more than that. I mean, if you go to church on Sunday morning, you'll find him hanging around churches. You'll find him hanging around. So it's not just at night. So I mean, by the time the night falls, they have nowhere to sleep. If you visit the Palm Grove Cemetery, they sleep in the graves. So this is a serious issue. You know, and for me, I see even beyond the security thing, because we shouldn't move because of a security threat. We should move because a country is gauged by the way the weakest amongst us are treated and the opportunities that we give to those who cannot do for themselves. So for me, that is the motivating factor beyond the security issue, is what do we do to assist. 60% of our population is young people. I'm not sure how many of them are involved in this disadvantaged youth that we call Zobos. I think some of the NGOs have done some work, and we need to find out what the numbers actually look like. Funny thing, they're in serious groups. They have certain centers where they live, whether it's whatever they do, but they're structured.
Yeah.
They have leaders of their groupings. So there's already a structure on the ground. So if somebody wanted to help, there's a leadership that you can reach out to. So there is some structure, thankfully. You know, they all listen to this one person. I don't know how many per grouping, but they actually have a leadership on the ground. And then through this, we can all just continue to raise this issue, talk about it, and all of us need to help. It's difficult for one group to say, I will be able to take care of these are thousands of young people we're talking about, not just in Monrovia, but in other counties. So I hope this will be something we all can find a way around.
Actually, the second part of this question was, what are some of the needs that you have to open
The center we're doing. Well, I believe the most important need is the ICT training center. Everything now is ICT. So we want computers and internet facilities so that we can train our young people. If you visit the schools, you know, maybe the university has one such small center, but most of the schools aren't teaching anything concerning digital learning. So we're back 25 years. A little child in America can pick up your telephone and do more than you would even imagine. So we don't even have that kind of capability. There are few people who have learned by themselves, but it has to become a mainline thing in the schools, and that would just be one center, because like I said, I was just trying to do what I can do to make a difference, but there is no digital training in any of the schools. How do we deal with that? Hopefully we can get some sister school relationships, something that we can do. And I believe the diaspora is so critical to where we are. And that can come from, like I said, even if you're $100,000, it's $100,000, but $1 a month that we can raise. And if we say we're gonna do education, whatever it is we can do, that will help also, because I think your interest is because this is home. You know, how do we help government? How do we help our own people? And that's the only angle I can give, because I think there's so much more beyond what government has the capacity to do. Now we have to worry about education, we have to worry about healthcare. The president's focus is opening up the country for roads. So a lot of the money we get go into roads because during the rainy season, which is 8 months of the year, you can't go beyond Kanta, you can't go beyond Buchanan. So we're trying to make sure that that road network that connects all of the capital cities are done. And we've done some of it, there's still a large percentage of it left, we have partners who are helping. But again, look at the Robertsfield to ELW road, that is just a project just started. So there's a lot that his focus is opening up the country, because if you don't have access, then you really can't do much, because Monrovia is not Liberia. So if you take out that percentage, 1 mile of road, I understand is $1 million. So you can only imagine how much money we're putting into the road network. So how do we do all of the schools and all of the health facilities and all of the other issues? So it's critical, but I believe the human capacity building of any country is also critical. How do we capacitate our people to take on the responsibility of building this country? Because they were building. I mean, government can only do so much. The rest of it is left up to Liberians. So it's really a tall order.
Hello, Vice President. If one would like to donate brand new laptops, not used ones, but some brand new laptops to the organization, how do they get it to them?
Well, we have duty free, so that we can, those who send materials, whether it's hospital equipment, they can come duty free. Even if it's, the laptops aren't as heavy as computers, you can come by freight and then we pay, get duty free. We've also joined in having the shipment done. The issue is we don't have the money to buy the computers, but if someone were to donate it, we can get it here.
Okay.
Chief of Staff, in
Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President. I yield to session.
Well, we're gonna be, there's a little bit delay. Okay, there's a little bit delay. I think we start at 1. There's some documents they're trying to finish. So we start a little bit later. Maybe you guys go to lunch and then when we're ready, we'll call. Whenever come in and see.
That will be fine. That works.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's an honor. It's good to see face to face the people I've seen on TV only. Thank you guys.
Looking for Lex Washington, Lex interaction with the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Madam Joy Howard Taylor, and their team. Yeah, thank you.